Hello and welcome back to Manx Virtual Railways. My name's Ian. I've been working on this for a long time. It's still a work in progress. If you haven't seen any of the other videos, then do check them out. But I'll just remind you that it is in Train Simulator 2019. There are certain limitations to that game, so we don't have the Alaman stock, so it's all in standard gauge basically. So there are certain trade-offs I've had to make, but I've tried as hard as I can to make it a really good representation of the Alaman Railways, set in modern times, but as if the railways still existed in their, the most widespread form. So we're going to start off the journey on the eastern approach to St John Station. A really interesting station along the line, probably the most interesting, really, next to Douglas, maybe, where at some point 3 railways all converged. So definitely of interest. So without any further ado, let's join the line. So you can see here we're starting off at the Balacrane crossing. The little hut here is nice, but it's been nicely refurbished actually. It's used as a shelter for cyclists. The whole route is now a good cycleway for people who like that kind of thing. It was used as a halt for a short while for the nearby Glen Helen and the waterfalls, etc. up there. Didn't last too long though. So as we go along, you might recognise this. This is the site of the Civic Amenity Centre now. So you've got this path which leads up to the station, but on the left here is the Civic Amenity site. As we approach the station, there was a siding laid in here at one point. These were used as gravel pits. All around St John's there were several sidings. They would have evolved and changed over time as the gravel was used, and they shifted the area they were digging. So moving further along, we've got a water tower here. And this is the first major feature, which is the Foxdale Line overbridge. It's the only point on the island where I believe a railway crosses another one, apart from if you count the Laxey Mines Railway running underneath the electric railway. When the Manx Northern Railway were granted permission to build the Foxdale Line, they had to build a double one capable of taking a double track. That was what the agreement made in government. So I presume the Alaman Railways at one point envisaged building a double track network. Certainly if you look at the bridge at Pulrose, when that was put in, that was also for double track. Never happened. Would have been an interesting point. Something I could maybe even look at on Train Simulator. That's the beauty of the game, is we can look at those what if scenarios. So going over the bridge, we've got the home signal for St John's Station. This would have had 2 arms, one of them being for the Ramsey side, one being for the Peel side. Train Simulator, the limitations, I haven't been able to find a signal that does that, but we've got it represented with a route indicator here. We've got the points box, never called a signal box. George Crellin, the old station master, I think was quite adamant about that. And behind it we've got the carriage shed. So this was built, I think, shortly after all the railways were amalgamated, because the Alaman Railway had to buy new bogie stock. They judged that the Clemensons were no good, and they were stored on this line latterly. I think it was called Harry Cubbon's Wing after the guy who built it. I may be wrong there though. Unfortunately, there was a big fire here latterly in later railway years. There was some suspicion about who started it as well, but I won't go into that here. At one point, several unused locos were stored here and put on display each day. Unfortunately, no signs that ever existed now. The bridge is still in though. So turning around, we've got the advertising hoardings, which would have been there for holiday makers. We come across another water tower, and then we've got the main platform area. So on the left, I believe this is how it generally worked, although I'm sure there were differences in operation as the railway grew up over the years. This would have been the Peel platform for trains heading to Peel. This would have been the Douglas side, and this would have been for Ramsey. I do know this was also used as a platform at some point. I've got a Foxdale train just waiting there. There was a nice, a good siding here. And then we've got the head shunt for the carriage shed. Moving along a little bit further, we've got the station building, which was never a grandiose affair. It was only small, considering how busy this station would have been. I think it had outdoor toilets, minimal conveniences. Another water tower. There was at one point a footbridge that went over these two lines. The Manx people did not like being told they had to use the footbridge, as far as I can tell, and decided not to. So it was demolished and barely used. But it shows that they took the station seriously at one point. So yeah, that's the main terminus as it would have been used in later years. In the heyday of the railway. Very busy site, especially on Tynwald Day. Unfortunately, I've not been able to build Tynwald Hill. I've not been able to find big green, browned objects. But yeah, would have been a very crowded station on those days. We've then got the road which runs up to head to Peel and up to Portown. And across the road, we've got what would have at one point been the Manx Northern Railway terminus. This is the Foxdale terminus station. It was built when the Foxdale line was completed. This was basically a siding, but with access. I don't think they would have ever had passengers load on this side. I've also put in this sandpit siding. I think was it called Dumble's siding? I'm not too sure. It's now a car park, but yeah, it was basically the area around St John's is full of gravel and sand. So there were there were numerous sidings which would have spurted off and come off on that side of the bridge as well. But just to kind of give an indication of what it was used for. The station building for Foxdale is still there, which is great, and there is a good shed. I'm not sure whether it's the original one, but there is a shed that looks like it was to do with the railway. Still on site. There was, of course, a few people have noted about I've not put the turntable in. So yes, I haven't put the turntable in here. It's basically because the turntables on Train Simulator are very big, and it would involve having to shift the line around it, and it just wouldn't look very good. It was mainly used for turning coach stock to weather the paintwork evenly. So it was never... it was never utilised really for turning locos. I know they tested it with a loco. There's an excerpt in the Manx Northern Railway book which talks about how they tested it with Thornhill. But yeah, it wouldn't have routinely been used for turning locomotives. It was mainly for the carriage stock. See, we've got a train departing. I've got them running automatically now. So yeah, at one point, if we go to an overview now, we can start talking a little bit about how the station evolved. Now, I'm no expert on this, but I have read, I've seen a few diagrams and I've read about it. When the railway was originally put in the Peel line, this would have been just any other line-side station. It was when the Manx Northern Railway was built that they actually put in a station this side of the road. Now, there was always a connection to the Alaman Railway because they envisaged kind of working together from the start, but basically Ramsey trains terminated here, passengers would then have to get off, walk over the road, and then they would board another train on this side. That quickly, they quickly, they realised that wasn't going to be sustainable moving forward, so they started off by running coaches into the Alaman Railway part of the station. They then developed this side of the station, so they actually had a run through, which saved a bit of time. And it evolved over the years and kept evolving until the point where they decided to basically run most of the operations from this side. They stopped using this side, basically. It just became storage. A couple of interesting points to note is that the connections, the head shunt for the carriage shed would also have gone straight into the sandpit there. So there was another there was a road crossing here, and it would have gone across. Also, I think this road was actually connected at one point, and another separate crossing. So the station, if you look at St John's Station, it just changed over the years. And another that's the beauty of Train Simulator. I could actually theoretically change the route, and I could show you those earlier kind of incarnations of the station. I'm not going to do that for now because I want to finish off what I've been doing already. But yeah, that kind of brings us to a conclusion, really. Of course, you've got the running lines that leave leave the station, and there would have been some races between the Ramsey and Peel trains. Of course, the Ramsey train then had a gradient going up, so was probably the loser most of the time. The twin bridges are still there, although they carry water pipes now, I think, or sewage pipes or something, over the Neb River. And we've got I love that view of Slewolly in there. It looks really good. But yeah, that's our station. If you liked this video, please like, subscribe, click the notification bell. Some of the things I've got the idea of, I'm going to be doing more guided tours of the different kind of hotspots along the routes. We'll have some other just driving routes, but I've also got, as you saw just before, we've got some AI traffic running, so we can actually see trains running together. So we'll definitely do a race, replicate a race from this station at some point in the near future. So yeah, stay tuned, stay safe, and see you soon.